Chapter 89 Investigations. The breeze was clear, and the bloodlight was not dissipated. Fan Xian looked at the man in the bucket hat at the corner of the alley, vaguely guessing that the other party was a mage who was regarded as a chicken rib by the martial arts experts, but he could not have imagined that he would nearly die under the big man today because of the other party. That silhouette politely saluted Fan Xian and then prepared to leave. The two were a full 4 feet apart, and this mage specialized in wind arts, very confident that if he escaped, no one in the world would be able to catch him unless the 4 great masters were there in person. Not to mention Fan Xian, after he had been seriously injured, the plan had failed, so naturally, he had to turn around and leave in style. Fan Xian looked at the guy who still spoke of poise, threw down his slender dagger, raised his left arm, and gently keyed the spring. At the entrance of the alley, the figure covered his throat and collapsed to the ground, hissing in agony as he died immediately, a thin soul-capturing crossbow arrow standing between the dead body's fingers. Stupid bee. Feed Fuji Zijing ate a pill, the arrow poison finally cleared some, the person has woken up, then the residual poison has not been cancelled, definitely have to go back to the house and then medical treatment. Fan Xian's beautiful face was very pale at this time, and then dyed with the blood spattered out by the big man. It looked particularly horrible. He looked at Fuji Zijing, who woke up and said, "Pinch this place." He pointed at a certain place at the root of Fujiko Kyo's thigh. This was the aorta. Fuji Zijing's thigh had been broken, his face was white with pain, sweat dripped down like soybeans. Shivering, he pressed his hand to the root of his thigh, touching the injured area, and couldn't help but scream again. But Tu Zijing is really a good man, watching Fan Xian tear the cloth to stop the bleeding, and pour some powder that makes him self-burning pain in the wound, but actually did not grunt again. The most important thing about this kind of injury was the quarter hour after the injury, and Fan Xian had a saying in his previous life that it was called the platinum quarter hour. After Fan Xian nervously finished treating it, he confirmed that it should not lead to Fuji Zijing's death, and only then did he let out a sigh of relief, nearly falling to the ground. With immense difficulty, Fuji Zijing said, "Young master, your injuries." Fan Xian only thought of his wound at this time, realizing that there was incomparable pain in his right shoulder. He let out a grunt of pain. His true chi was transported to that spot, realizing that there was nothing wrong with the meridians. There should not be any horrible consequences. He opened his mouth and said, "You lie still and wait for a while." He still had the idea of what if in his heart, and walked along the broken wall where that horrible big man had opened out, only to see that behind the wall were all corpses. Most of them were the archers that had been decapitated by those 3 brave guards. And then he saw those 3 corpses that were shrunken into a ball, and their skulls had already been smacked to pieces. Shrinking into a ball was a symptom of being poisoned by arrows, and the heads must have been slapped to pieces by that terrifying big man. Confirming the deaths of the 3 guards, Fan Xian retreated in silence and sat down beside Fuji Zijing, silently bandaging his wounds again, silently waiting for the arrival of some friend or foe. The attack on Fan Xian on Oxley Street has undoubtedly become the most horrifying news in Kyoto in this month. The country of Qing has been at peace for a long time, and Kyoto, which is the best place in the world, is even more forbidding, so that even ordinary murder cases are rare, not to mention the assassination of the son of the Minister of the Ministry of the Household, Mr. Fan Jian, on the street in broad daylight. Although this Grand Duke has not been entered into the genealogy, but this matter is after all different from the previous Tsubaki brawl case. The assassin obviously came to kill, and actually used archery. Kyoto. Actually, someone can use archery to kill people, which has touched the bottom line of the rule of the imperial court. Therefore, the huge organization of the Qing dynasty began to operate, and it did not take much time to find out the truth of this assassination incident. Thanks to Fan Xian, if he hadn't fought back during the assassination and left all the bodies of the other side's main army on the Oxen Street, this case would have become another mysterious murder case in the history of Qing dynasty. Mainly because the big man who was disemboweled like a pig by Fan Xian was too famous, the detection of this case didn't take too much effort, at least by looking at the fact that Director Chen of the Supervisory Academy and Lord Fate still didn't rush back to the capital. It was clear that the matter wasn't very serious. The big man called Cheng Jushu, is the North Chi country famous murderer, a horizontal training kung fu knife and gun difficult to enter. The most critical point is the strength is unparalleled, the true Chi is strong. Is the world counted out of the 8th grade masters? While the beautiful snake assassin whose throat was cut by Fan Xian is a killer of a small vassal state, the supervisory Yuan secretly knows very well that this pair of sisterhood killers has actually been under the control of the Northern Qi state. So the case seems to be completely clear. The mastermind behind this assassination is the Northern Qi state. Just do not know whether it is that young emperor or that highly respected state master Bitter Lotus. The people of Kyoto were in an uproar, speculating as to why the Beiki kingdom, now a sickly tiger but still with a remnant of its power, would strike at the Fan family's son. Although Fan Xian has now gained some poetic fame, some floral fame, and some fierce fame in the capital, but in the whole world, it is still just an insignificant small role, and Beiki has paid the price of an 8th grade expert and 2 female assassins placed in the vassal states, but actually just to kill Fan Xian, who has just entered the capital not long ago. This is a thing that is hard to explain in any case. However, for those who really held power and had access to the secrets of the Qing kingdom, the Northern Qi kingdom was using a wonderful, ruthless move. I don't know how the other party's spies had found out that Fan Xian was likely to take over the management of the royal merchant side of the industry in the years to come, and so had become the target of a tug-of-war between His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and the Second Prince. If he was able to successfully kill Fan Xian and then disappear far away, people would definitely suspect that the incident was done by the Crown Prince, who was unwilling to lose his source of money, or rather, they would suspect that it was the Second Prince who intentionally killed Fan Xian to plant evidence to frame the Crown Prince. Whichever speculation it was, it would bring about an upheaval in Qing's dynastic politics that no one knew what the outcome would be. Fan Xian was only a minor figure, but his death was a big deal. The officials of the second division of the supervisory Yuan, whenever they analyzed this, admired their counterparts in the Northern Qi kingdom for coming up with such a beautiful plan. Just a small action that might slow down the northern expedition that the Qing kingdom had been secretly planning. The northern expedition only exists in the staff room of the military academy, the planning room of the supervisory academy, and the brain of His Majesty the Emperor. Whether to fight or not to fight, it is His Majesty's word. So Beiki has been living under this shadow. They chose to make a move at this time. It is really a smart move, provided of course that they can succeed in killing Fan Xian, and also do not leave a clue. The only thing the Northern Qi side didn't expect was that they would be able to kill Fan Xian without leaving a single clue. It was just that the Beiki side had not expected that this seemingly insignificant little character would possess such a powerful strength. The 4 guards beside Fan Xian were all Sinan Bo's private stash, each possessing the strength of the 5th grade, so they were able to clean up the archers even after being poisoned by the arrows. Of course, the most frightening thing was the beautiful bastard, who was able to kill 2 men who were known for their poisonous accuracy, even in the midst of a siege. Killed 2 female assassins who were known for their poison accuracy, and that 8th grade expert Cheng Jushu. As for that mage, no one cared, it was just a chicken rib. The joint submission from the Supervisory Academy and the Ministry of Justice has come out, confirming that it was done by Northern Qi, and the thread connected behind it has also been pulled out. The Second Prince asked you to meet him, arranging to meet you on the River of Flowing Crystals, and he assumed that you liked the girl Sea Lily, so he chose the Drunken Immortal Residence, but no one could have guessed that the Drunken Immortal Residence was actually a hidden stake placed in Kyoto by Northern Qi. Sinan Bo Fan Jian sat inside the dimly lit bedroom, looked at his son lying on the bed, and calmly said, "I know you're very angry, but since there's nothing wrong with you people, and all those assassins died in your hands, this matter will be settled. Forget it." Fan Xian's heart chilled slightly, and he turned to say, "Where are Sea Li's people?" On her way to escape to the north, she was intercepted by people from all around the supervisory court, and is currently on her way to be escorted back to Kyoto. "I hope she doesn't die." Fan Xian's voice was cold. Fan Jian smiled. People under the watchful eye of the supervisory court have never been prone to death. "Do you think things are really that simple?" Fan Xian suddenly smiled and asked his father, "What do you judge differently? How did those archers Get mixed into Kyoto? I've already heard that the bodies of those archers were cremated the next day. Was someone afraid of discovering something from those people's bodies? Fan Xian sidestepped with some difficulty and said, I know that you don't want me to know these things because you're afraid that I won't be able to resist taking revenge, but I think I have the right to know who wants me dead. Fan Jian looked at him coldly and said, You should be clear that I represent His Majesty the Emperor to have a part of the secret power. This power is far less powerful than the Supervisory Academy, but it is also professional enough. But we are still unable to find out who it is that is colluding with the Northern Qi people, and the object of suspicion is not confined to the Crown Prince and the second prince in between. It even includes the Prime Minister and the eldest princess. Since we can't figure out who is the real enemy, then we shouldn't be too vocal and set up too many enemies for ourselves. Fan Jian continued, This is my advice to you, and I hope you can accept it. Fan Xian nodded and touched his shoulder again, his brow furrowed for a moment, and after taking 2 breaths, he replied, I'll find a way to look into this matter. Fan Jian was satisfied with his son's stance, and after a few words of comfort, he left the bedroom. After his father left, Fan Xian's eyes instantly fell silent as he looked into a corner of the dimly lit room and asked with a slight hint of resentment, Why didn't you make a move that day? 5 Bamboos stepped out of the darkness, his eyes still covered with that black cloth, which did not have a single wrinkle on it, just like his perpetually expressionless face.